Right, good morning everybody, and welcome to our media briefing this morning. I'm Fred Nell, I'm the Chief Whip of the DA in the Gauteng Legislature, and with me is Cllr Mpho Phalatse, who's the leader of the DA in the Gauteng Legislature. We are this morning here to brief you about a motion of no confidence that the DA will be submitting to the Gauteng Legislature in Premier Makhura, and Solly will explain the reasons exactly why we're doing it. Just to preface by saying that a motion of no confidence is a mechanism in a democracy that helps you to keep leaders accountable for their performance in government. And since we have a proportional system in this country, the best recall system that we have is a motion of no confidence, either in the Gauteng Legislature or in Parliament, in order to keep a leader accountable. And that is why we are submitting this motion of no confidence. Obviously, not taking it lightly, but we do have considerable reasons why we're doing that. And to explain those reasons, I'll hand over to Solly now to explain exactly why this motion of no confidence is submitted at this time. Sol.
Well, thank you very much, Fred, and good morning to the people of South Africa, the people of Gauteng, and to the journalists that have joined us this morning. It is unprecedented that you would have an office responding before even a statement is actually issued. And they're calling us desperate. And yes, we are indeed desperate, but we're not desperate as a party. We are desperate as a country, as a province. We're desperate for leadership that is accountable. We're desperate for employment of the people of Gauteng. We are desperate for new ideas, and we are desperate for accountability. That's what the people of Gauteng are desperate for. So to get a government responding to call a motion that we want to table as desperate, yes, we agree with them, we are desperate, but we are not desperate for the reasons that they're putting. We're desperate because the people of Gauteng are desperate. And we desperately want to see the change that the people of Gauteng are so much yearning for. But you started off correctly, Fred, when you say that, the reason why we are putting up this motion of no confidence is also because we have looked at the level of accountability that has actually been non-existent from the leadership that has been there. I think after nearly 8 years of being the leader of the province, one must ask themselves, is the province getting any better? Is there hope? Are we heading in the right direction? And I can tell you right now, the answer in Gauteng, if you ask any resident, the answer will be a hard and absolute no. Why? Because crime is at an all-time high. You don't have to take my word for it. Go and look at the latest stats. The latest stats shows that Gauteng tops the top 30 in terms of all the hard crimes that have taken place, here in, or that have taken place in the country. If you're looking at the last figures that have come out between January 2022 and March 2022 of this year, the following cases have been reported. So we've had 1,403 murder cases reported in Gauteng, 2,936 hijackings, and 2,267 cases of sexual offenses. Now, I don't know how anybody at the helm of government can then sit there comfortably and say, we are heading in the right direction. And why is crime so high? Because this government has never taken the people of Gauteng very seriously. They've only budgeted to buy 50 new vehicles in this financial year. For the whole of Gauteng, you are only going to buy 50 new vehicles, while Gauteng is so desperately in need of visible policing so that we are able to then show that we are able to take care of the people's needs here in Gauteng and protect the people. The Premier goes to Kagiso and tells the people of South Africa that, we are now governed by a lawless, we are now living in a lawless society. We are now being governed by criminals. Indeed, we are now living in a lawless society because they have failed as authorities to do what needed to be done. Now the question is, why should the Premier and his executive continue to be in the positions that they are holding if they are not able to then turn the fortunes of the people of Gauteng around? We have looked at a number of things, and we have looked at a number of incidences that has led us to believe that the motion of no confidence is the only thing that can be done so that we're able to then start ushering in a new leave into government here in Gauteng and make sure that the people will get a government that not only they deserve, but a government that will put them first at all times. Little has been done to make sure that we are able to arrest the unemployment in this province. Poverty and desperation are the foundation of which criminal activities is born. And we can see now in Gauteng that a lot of people, due to wanting to make a living, end up going into a life of crime. We have seen now what is happening in Kagiso, that people who are desperate to earn a living, people who are desperate to make sure that they participate in the economic vehicle of Gauteng, some of them end up taking, very much illegal means to make sure that they earn a living and they're able to support their loved ones. We're not promoting that, but we are saying as a government, this is something that the Premier Makhura should have actually worked upon, instead of coming up with gimmicks year in, year out, more promises at the State of the Province address that we don't see any delivery thereof. We have heard of prawn farms, we have heard of marijuana farms that we've been told about. We've heard of so many of these great schemes that we're supposed to be delivering hundreds and thousands of jobs, but we're not getting anywhere. Currently, there are about 2.6 million unemployed Gauteng residents. Of those, 680,000 have already given up looking for jobs. And of that 2.6 million, more than half of those are young people who should now be sitting in jobs, who should now be providing for themselves and their families, but they're not able to do that. And Premier Makhura is sitting comfortably, and we should sit back and say, it's okay. We can't. That's why we're saying we are desperate to make sure that this government is actually a government that delivers for the people. If you are young and you live in this province, your chance of finding a sustainable employment or to support you and your loved ones is becoming more and more slimmer by the day. And in fact, more and more young people are becoming more unemployable by the day, because also they come up with grand schemes. They call it the Cllr 1 million. But if you look at what the Cllr 1 million has been able to then deliver, you find that it hasn't even been able to deliver on its own mandate of attracting young people, employing young people, and training young people. We haven't been able to do that. This is why I'm saying it is becoming even more apparent that more and more young people who should be getting into opportunities are not only becoming unemployed, they're becoming more and more unemployable, and that becomes a problem that we put squarely on the door of David Makhura. Millions upon millions of rands have been lost due to corruption in building projects across the province. We have heard of schools that have been built and left halfway and cannot be occupied at this point in time. I'll give an example of Mayoral Primary School, which they've spent 82 million rand and building a school on a waterlogged area. This school cannot be occupied or cannot be fully occupied right now. David Makhura had promised us that there was going to be an investigation and that we are going to see some arrests that are going to be made and some retrieval of monies that had been spent. But up to today, nothing has been done. Nothing has been retrieved as yet. Now, is this the person that should continue to keep their job? We certainly don't think so. We have seen projects clinics that have been built steadily. We have seen the stadiums that have been built, and David Makhura had promised us that there was going to be investigations into some of the work that is taking place there. We have heard of reports that are still sitting in the office, and he's been saying for the last 4 years that he was going to release some of the findings or some of the reports so that people can face prosecution. But up to now, we have seen absolutely nothing that is coming from there. So yes, we are desperate. We are desperate as a country, we are desperate as a province to get accountable government in place and to get a premier that will be able to put the people of Gauteng and not comrades first. I am tired, just as you are tired, of not only the excuses of this failure by this government, but we are also tired of the lack of accountability and transparency that has been shown by this government under David Makhura. As I said earlier on, we have had now number of cases where we have been told year in and year out that there is going to be a report that will be tabled. We have been told year in, year out that there is the SIU reports that are going to be given to us. By the way, they still owe the SIU millions of rands for cases that have been investigated, but haven't been paid for, and therefore some of the reports could actually be held back because this government of David Makhura hasn't really taken the people seriously to make sure that they speedily get those reports and they speedily release those reports into the public so that we know exactly where we stand. You just need to go back to the 4 State of the Province addresses that he has been delivering, and you'll find out that he's been talking about the Special Investigating Unit reports that are outstanding. We've been waiting for the Alexander Renewal Report. We've been waiting for the Mfuleni Renewal Project Report. We have been waiting for reports that implicate some of the comrades. When you're looking at the investigation into the PPE as an example, at this point in time we have had 2.2 billion rand of public funds devoured by well-connected cadres, of whom served under David Makhura's cabinet, through the hyperinflation of the prices of the PPE at the height of a global pandemic. Now, what has happened to that? We have had 500 million rand worth of funding amounted to wasteful expenditure of the so-called Anglo-Ashanti Hospital Renewal Project that has taken place, where millions of rands have been poured, or 500 million has been poured into Anglo-Ashanti, a hospital that we don't owe, a hospital that was supposed to have been converted into a COVID hospital, but didn't even serve past 10 people at any given time at the height of even the COVID pandemic. Now we ask ourselves, is this the premier that should be allowed to continue to hold on to his job? And we definitely don't think that that is the case. The decontamination and sanitation of schools at prices beyond any reason is another example of this. This is a time when we barely had any teacher or any learner who was physically attending school, but yet we had spent 431 million rand in sanitizing schools. And this served nothing but to ensure that the pockets of the entrepreneurs were lined up very, very nicely. The underlying circumstances beyond the expenditure, we still don't know, because even the MECs are telling us we don't know what has happened. The Premier, when we ask, is still waiting for the MECs. Where does the buck stop? The buck stops with the Premier. And if the Premier is failing to account, therefore he doesn't deserve to be the Premier of this province. And this is why we will be tabling a motion of no confidence against the Premier in the next coming couple of days. 6 years into his administration, we are still waiting for the outcomes of the game-changing lifestyle audits of members of the executive. You would know that every time that he has the State of the Province address, he keeps saying that we are going to get the lifestyle audits report. Up to so far, we haven't seen a lifestyle audit report of any of the executive members, including him. And this is something that we ask ourselves, is this how the Premier of Gauteng is accounting to the people of this province? What ill-gotten gains are being squirreled away? This is the only logical reason for this, for these reports to not be released, is that because there is something to be hidden. If there was nothing to be hidden, we should have been giving these reports a long time ago. Gauteng residents are still waiting for the long overdue investigative criminal investigation into the Bank of Lisbon fire. We have been told that the Bank of Lisbon, there was something untoward, and the Premier was looking into it, and they were fast-tracking the investigation, but as yet we haven't received anything. Is there anything that is being covered there? This is something that we have been asking ourselves. And the Premier needs to make sure that that report is actually being released, but he's not going to do that because he knows that there are comrades that are being protected. Why? At the time of the fire, then the MEC of Infrastructure, Jacob Mamabolo, indicated that the building was only 21% compliant. More than likely, the delay is an attempt to shield the implicated cadres. The cadres in the departments, cadres who are sitting in his cabinet, who knew about these things but did nothing about it. So yes, we want accountability, and this is why we are saying this Premier must go, and must go now. This is more also to look at other cases that have been taking place. You would know that of late we had the Charlotte Maxeke Hospital, that part of it has burned down. And he came during the state of the province must then say he's ready to go to jail if that hospital is not going to be open very, very soon. And that hospital is still not open. Certain sections of it is still not open. Is this the premier that should hold on to his job? We definitely say no, that is not the case. So we want to make sure that we have a premier that is accountable to the people of Gauteng. We want to make sure that we have a premier that is going to be able to have fresh ideas that can turn the situation of and the fortunes of the Gauteng residents around. We want to make sure that crime is fought at every level and with every means possible to make sure that the people of this province feel safe and that those that want to come and invest in this province can feel that Gauteng is a province that they can come and invest in because their assets and their people will be safe in this province. We want to make sure that the people who are paying taxes have their money saving them, not going into the pockets of entrepreneurs and those that are cadres that are connected to the premier and his cabinet. We want to make sure that we have a government that has plans in terms of how we are going to deal with the energy crisis from a provincial and a local perspective. We want to make sure that we have a premier that is going to pool all the municipalities and work together to ensure that the imminent water crisis that we will be facing will be dealt with. We want to make sure that we have a premier that is going to pool all spheres of government within the province, or all departments within the province, to work together towards making sure that unemployment becomes a thing of the past in this province, to make sure that we are able to deliver on services to the people of Gauteng, to make sure that we are able to then have a brighter future for each and every individual that is living in this province. So David Makhura has shown and has proven that he is not that person to be able to then get us there. And this is why, as a Democratic Alliance, we will be tabling a motion of no confidence in David Makhura in the next couple of days. It is time that this province and its people were served by someone who's legitimately wanting to make a change and improve their lives. And this is why we will be tabling our motion against David Makhura in the days that will be coming. Gone are the days of having a vapid leadership in Gauteng. We need leadership that will be able to take the people seriously, that will be accountable to the people of Gauteng, and that will also answer to the desperation call of the people of Gauteng for a better life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Solly. If there are any questions, you're welcome to ask them. Please use the gooseneck mic here to your left, so you can just maybe start if you don't mind. Thanks.
Thank you so much. It's Natasha Perry here from SABC News. Just a few questions to Mr. Salim Simanga. When exactly will you be tabling this motion of no confidence? How confident are you that it'll be successful, and have you reached out to other political parties on this matter? Because this is a numbers game, and as I know, you guys don't have, the DA doesn't have the numbers. So, yeah, thank you.
Do you want to answer them one by one, or do you want to wait?
No.
Okay.
Good morning, Mbali Tetani from Newsroom Africa. Similar to what Natasha's asking, I mean, the ANC has around 37 seats in the legislature. You don't have the numbers. Who are you speaking to? Is anybody interested in having this motion with you? At the same time, the statement from David Makhura's office, you know, some are even saying when you speak to the ANC that this is just being used to sidetrack the issues of the DA after we've just seen Makashulekana resign from the party. What do you have to say about that? That this is just a decoy to not deal with the real issues that face you when you see more black leaders leaving your party? Thank you.
Nkosikoana Duma here from Eyewitness News. So the statement that Mbali's referred to that was issued by the Office of the Premier says that the reports which you allege have not been seen. They're saying that the reports were tabled in the legislature and to the broader public. So can you just name them and say which are these reports that were not, that were hidden? Yeah.
All right. You want to go?
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. Natasha, yeah. When are we tabling this motion? This motion is going in today. we wanted to alert the public that as soon as we have informed the members of the public and the motion is going in, it's actually now sitting in my desk. It's already been signed and it will be submitted today. We are in conversation with other political leaders around or in the legislature who we're having a conversation with around the concerns. And they've also, some of them have raised some of their own concerns in terms of how government is actually being run. So we are engaging with other political parties in opposition within the legislature. And yes, we are very much aware of the numbers game, but also we're very much aware of their own internal battles as well. So that is something that we're very much aware of. So, there is not a therefore when it comes to the actual numbers that are there in the Gauteng legislature. How confident are we? We are very much confident of the numbers that we have in terms of the DA, the numbers of other political parties that we have engaged with. And obviously then it's going to be, resting on the ANC itself to then say, after hearing everything that we have said, are they going to themselves continue to protect one of their comrades, or are they going to do the right thing and make sure that they support this motion and make sure that we're able to then get somebody who's going to be then accountable to the people of Gauteng? Now, you asked the question whether are we being sidetracking on the issue. No, we're not. We have been planning to have this motion go on. Ever since, earlier on in the year. And we had put it off. And in fact, at some time when we wanted to table this, the speaker then decided that the sitting was not going to take place the day that it was supposed to take place. And then it was going to be taking place at a later time. So this is nothing new that we want or we're planning here because there's an issue within the DA. So we're not being sidetracked, or we're not trying to sidetrack anybody. We are answering to what the people of Gauteng has been calling us to do. The people of Gauteng has been calling us to keep this government to check and to account. And if they're not going to be able to then account, then it becomes our responsibility to then say that we need to act in removing this government so that there can be a government that will be able to then be accountable to the people of Gauteng. So the reports that you're talking about, Kosikona, is quite a number of them I've highlighted now. We're still waiting now for the Bank of Lisbon report as an example. We're still waiting for the Alexander Renewal Project report. We're still waiting. By the way, I even challenged the Premier. I said to the Premier, you said you did a lifestyle audit. Lifestyle audit is not somebody from the Hawks office asking you 3 or 4 questions and therefore a lifestyle audit is then done, because that's what has actually happened. I challenge you as members of the media to go and ask what lifestyle audit has been done. Where are those reports? These are the reports that we say we have been waiting for, and we have been promised these things for the last 4 years and nothing has been coming. Another report that we've been waiting for is the PPE report, the full disclosure of the PPE. Where did money go? Where did the 2.2 billion rand money go? Where did the 400 million of the school sanitizing program, where did that money go? Because when you ask Panyaza Lesufi says, I'm shocked, I don't know. This is now months and months ago. What investigation has taken place? What report has now come out? Who has been sent to jail? Who is now being prosecuted? These are the things that we are saying we are waiting for answers for. And we're not getting those answers. They're saying they're releasing reports. Have you guys, as members of the media, interrogated those reports? Are they giving you enough to then say enough is being done by this government? No. We are just being given, a fluffy a piece of paper that seeks to then just say we have done the investigations, but no investigations have actually been done. Because if there's investigations that are done and then there are people that are being implicated, therefore there should be prosecution. And there's no prosecution that is taking place at this point in time. And then there's no urgency from Makura, and this is why we are asking, why should he then keep his job? Why shouldn't we then put a motion against him? Those are some of the things that we want to put forward. Yeah, Kosukon?
So part of the criticism against this particular motion and the move you want to make is that it's just all political. In fact, the statement that comes from the Office of the Premier saying that you are using cheap politics for relevance, and I'm sitting here listening. You're talking about some of these investigations. You know, the Gauteng education sanitizer tender issue, for example. But is it not unfair, and also does it not paint you as someone who's not aware of how these investigations unfold as well? Because I understand that it is the NPA, which, for example, has to deal with prosecution. So if the wheels of justice are slow in that regard, why then does the DA feel that David Makhura should be removed from his position in terms of that?
Okay. I think that's a very good question. In my statement when I started, I said there are a number of investigations that come back a number of years that we've been promised. So just to concentrate on the PPE one, I think will just be an unfortunate, because I've mentioned quite a number of them. The Bank of Lisbon is another one that I said to you. The lifestyle audit is one that had been promised to us. And in his own State of the Province address, he's been saying in the next coming 30 days, in the next coming 4 months, or before June. Actually, the last one he said before the end of June, July, he will be able to then give us those reports. So,
okay, sorry, Mr. Msimang, if you are putting aside the PPE matter in Gauteng schools, are you then saying no, it's no longer an issue, that you are saying that the Premier must be removed from his position? It's no longer a relevant matter that has to do with your...
You are not listening to what I'm saying, sir. I've mentioned the Alexander Renewal Project. I've mentioned the Mpho Renewal Project. I've mentioned to you that there is the lifestyle audit that he said that will be coming our way. That is not coming. I have mentioned the Bank of Lisbon to you. And I can go on. I can go on. We have said to the Premier, launch an intergovernmental dispute against the e-tolls. Something that was done in the Western Cape, by the way. So there's nothing new there. We're still sitting now. We're not even sure what is going to happen with the e-tolls. So this is why I'm saying there's quite a number of issues that have been forthcoming. So these last two that I've mentioned, that you are now saying it's a matter that the SIU still may be investigating. And I've said to you, the SIU in the answer to Parliament has said the Gauteng government still owes them close on 50 million rand for work that has been done that Gauteng hasn't been paying. Therefore, there are some reports that are sitting because work has been done. This is why the SIU has even submitted, in the response to Parliament to say Gauteng government owes them money. So if that is the case, and we have raised this with the Premier, and the Premier hasn't responded, why? Because some of these reports are most likely going to implicate some of his comrades. So this cannot be a desperate move by the DA. This is us holding the Premier to account because of what we have tabled inside in the legislature, the questions that we have asked in the legislature, the speeches that we have made in the legislature that says, Premier Makhura, these are things that you need to be responding to. So the SIU didn't have anything to do with the DA's motion when they said, we're waiting for Gauteng to pay us money for the investigations that we have, done here, and we're not getting the answers to. David Makhura knows about this, but has done absolutely nothing. This is why we are asking, why should he then keep his job?
If I can just quickly add, there's a number of SIU reports that's lying on the Premier's table that he, in the beginning of June, in the legislature, promised he would publish within a week's time, which he never did. They're still lying on his table. And just to deal with the question of relevance, the DA is the most relevant party, opposition party in this province. It's a DA that's exposing what's going on in the police stations in this province, and you would have read about it. It's a DA that's exposing the issues around Mpho, the sewer going down the roads, the rubbish that's not being removed, the ESCOM problems that the residents of Mpho have. It's a DA that over the weekend exposed the fact that the women's monument in Tshwane has not been opened. It's a DA that's exposed Life Esidimeni. It's a DA that's dealt with Charlotte Maxeke. It's a DA that on a daily basis you read about from Jack Bloom on health issues. we are the most relevant opposition party in this province. We don't have to fight for relevance because we're driving these issues on a daily basis, and you should know it. And the Premier knows it as well, and that's why they're trying to hide from us.
Yeah.
Mbali again. Mr. Msimang, you spoke of saying that you're very confident about this motion of no confidence and that you're speaking to parties in the legislature. Has anyone come to the fore and agreed that they definitely will vote with you? And another thing, your relationship with the EFF, is not really that great. Is the EFF one of the parties that you are indeed speaking to? Thank you.
All right. We are speaking to the EFF. We are speaking to the Freedom Front. We are speaking to the ACDP. We are speaking to Inkatha Freedom Party, which are the parties that are represented in the legislature. Now, I cannot then divulge what is happening behind the scenes at this point in time in terms of what our engagements are. But I can tell you right now, we are confident of the numbers that we have. They will represent, or they will present who we are in the legislature. And that's why I said it will be up to the ANC to demonstrate to the rest of the people of Gauteng whether indeed they are taking what we are saying very seriously, or they are going to hide and try to protect their comrade instead of dealing with what we have been saying here.
So,
you mentioned the numbers earlier. The ANC does have 37 seats, which one is the speaker, so by the way. So you actually have a stalemate in 36-36 when it comes to ordinary voting within the legislature. So you only need one vote to change the situation. In other words, one person not being there, one person being unhappy. And the ANC has its own problems, and it's their problem to unite their caucus who don't all support each other in any case. So we're confident if there was a secret ballot, he would be out, because we don't think that Makura has the full support of his own caucus even.
And will you be pushing for that, a secret ballot?
We would, because we're serious about getting Makura out.
All right.
All right.
Sorry, I just want to go back to this issue of reports, because the way in which it's coming to me, there are a number of reports that are not being released, therefore this premier needs to go. But the DA has previously used the PAIA Act, the Promotion of Access to Information Act, to try and gain access to information. And also some of the reasons, in fact, if you now go back to the other reasons, the slow economic growth, poor access, service delivery issues, the premier could easily say that, well, some of the issues have to deal with municipalities. It's too general, the issues they're trying to say. Developing the marijuana industry, the Eastern Cape is talking about it, the KZN is talking about it. I'm just trying to get specific new developments about Makura that he also did not inherit from his, from someone who came before him, that warrants him, it should be released this year, because you could have easily gone as early as 2019 and say, well, he must be removed from position. You could have, in 2020, done the same thing, because there's no new development I'm getting from you.
Okay, Kosukon, I don't know where you were last year, because we actually did table a motion last year. Was it last year? Yeah. We did table a motion, so this is nothing new. Then the mistake that we did was that we didn't talk to all the political parties, so we were not sure of the numbers that we were putting together. And there were other developments, that we were still waiting the outcomes of, and this is why we are now putting this motion together. Political developments within the ANC itself, which is now presenting a very unique opportunity for us, to explore as a political party, and a party that is in the legislature as well. So you asked about the PAIA Act and why haven't we explored that? We have. And in certain instances, we keep being told that this information will be forthcoming, but it's never forthcoming. We kept being told, we've been asking about for instance, we've been asking about the 2.2 million rand, 2.2 billion rand, the health, the Department of Health PPE breakdown. We haven't been getting that. Jack Bloom has actually now put in an application, but every time you've been told, we are not ready, we are not ready, we are not ready. Then how long do people need to get ready? But you will see in certain instances they're very quick to move. because then, you know, there are people who are not implicated, or comrades are not being implicated. So it's easy to then move in that way. But where comrades are being implicated, I'm telling you right now, as an example, go and look at the Alexander Renewal Project. You're not going to get answers now, because why? There are people that are implicated. The so-called Alexander Mafia is implicated in there, but we're not getting answers. Why? Because, you know, comrades need to be protected. Now, this is why we are asking, is Makhura then somebody that should be keeping their job? Because they're more protecting comrades than protecting the interests and the well-being of the people of this province. So this is why we are putting this motion here, to then say there needs to be a government, or there needs to be a leader, somebody who the buck stops with, who is saying, I'm going to show transparency, as he claims that he's always been transparent. I'm going to show accountability, and I'm going to show that I'm putting the people of Gauteng first by releasing these reports, by then ensuring that there is prosecution of some of the implicated individuals in some of these so-called SIU reports, which he himself has been saying, they are lying on my desk, give me a week or give me up to this, I will release them. But these are not forthcoming. And whenever they are forthcoming, whenever they are, parts of them that are released, there's not enough meat that is being put out there so that you as journalists are able to then dig a lot deeper, and then you're able to then start asking questions that will expose some of these people. That's what we are saying here. And we need a government that is going to be as open and transparent in its dealings, especially when it comes to taxpayers' money and the leadership thereof. Ultimately, David Makhura must take responsibility for this. So it's not something that is just coming out now because, we're now having issues within the organization, our organization, whatever the case may be. It's something that we have been saying for the longest of time. And we have raised the motion of no confidence, as I said. We have tabled it. At some point, we didn't have all the opposition parties voting with us. We're tabling it again. We're consulting people this time. We're making sure that we have all our facts, put down, so that also members of the public will know these are the facts that we're putting across. So should the ANC decide to vote against this motion, then they must go and explain to the people of Gauteng how they're willing to then address some of the issues that we are raising here and highlighting.
You can also do your own research on it. You can just go analyze his past 4 State of the Province speeches for this term, and then you can make a calculation yourself as to how many of the promises that he made in the past 4 speeches you reckon he actually delivered on. And then you can decide for yourself whether this is a frivolous motion or whether it actually has substance. I think that's where our information stems from, and what we experience on a daily basis, and the failures that we see every day. All right, it doesn't seem like there are any more questions at this stage. Thank you very much for everybody's attention. And I hope to see you all at the Gauteng Legislature when this motion serves to come and observe the debate. I'm sure it'll be fireworks, and it should be very interesting to hear what the answers are to what we are putting on the table here. So thank you very much, everybody. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you.